Well, thank you, Margarita, and thank you to the Delphi Economic Forum. I'd like to share some remarks on methodology about long-term thinking, how to keep the long view. The choice of words and concepts matters. Perspectives, trends, scenarios, forecasts are not exactly the same. It's important to avoid confusion, which is mainly spread out. Globalization imposes on us a duty to keep ourselves informed about the world events. We need to be aware about ignorance, our ignorance, and willing to learn to understand and handle disconcerting action, ambition, and changes of other people in a world that never stops sending us signals, whether we like it or not. So I will rely quickly upon my own experiences as a former director of the policy planning staff on the French Foreign Ministry and also director of research in the Institute of Higher Defense Studies, which is part of the Prime Minister's office. In my view, the first step, there are 3 steps. The first step to build a long view is to identify trends, which are long-term by definition, but sometimes not very obvious, not very visible. Nobody can look at the wheat or at the rice growing, but it grows every day. So in today's world, main trends are first, growing interdependence, second, globalization of basic knowledge on a wide range of issues and situations, third, permanent flows of data, perception, misperception, emotion, images, short abstracts and slogan of long speeches, simplification of complex issue, black and white, the good and the bad. In more geopolitical terms, we shall identify a long transitional period characterized by friction and rivalries between, let's say, established powers and ascending powers. The first one to keep their primacy, and the second wants to reach their space under the sun, to quote a former German foreign minister some years before the First World War. Old-fashioned geopolitics is still there, like it or not. Sovereignty matters in a very Westphalian world. This is still a key reference from many leaders in many countries. And it's difficult to understand that in Europe, in the European Union. Even if free trade, free flows of capital, free circulation of ideas are, of course, eroding the borders of sovereignty. In terms of methodology, I assume that trends are shaping the context. The context is what you cannot choose as a specific country. You cannot escape. You have to take the context, which is not your production. You have to take it into consideration, to use it, and to protect from it at the same time. You have risk and opportunity at the same time. This is part of the game. And the way to perform could be to use what audit consulting companies are promoting, which is a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. It can be useful from time to time. So in such a context of interdependent world, with a multiplicity of actors, state and non-state actors, it seems almost impossible, in my view, and even useless, to risk forecast. Forget about forecast. but it can be efficient to draw scenarios. For example, we can imagine the evolution of the complex interaction between European Union and Russia. You have 4 possible scenarios and 2 criteria. Both actors are strong, both actors are weak. One is weak, one is strong, the other one is weak, and the first is strong. In any situation, what matters is the inner situation of one specific country or set of countries, which are the key factor in the international system. What matters in international system in the internal situation on every actor. So at this stage, we have trends, we have context, we don't have forecast. So in my view, the last step, the critical one, is to decide as a specific country, Greece, France, what do we want? What do we want to achieve as an actor? I will call that step perspective, national goals, national objectives. Very few countries today have collective leadership and capacities able to express a full set of long-term goals. The only country I know today where a president in a Congress is able to spell out a long-term view is China. Look at the previous Congress. We had a speech about 2049 national goals. It's partly soft power, it's partly propaganda, but not only. It's a real objective, and everybody has to keep on line with that. China will be, in that delay, a great modern socialist country, I quote, which stand tall and firm, moving closer to the center stage. We are informed. This is what they want to achieve. It's about global renaissance, pride. Pride is one of the key words today for Chinese society, not only the leadership. There is a song posted online recently after the Congress. Mao put China back on its feet, Deng Xiaoping made it rich, and Xi Jinping made it strong. We are informed. We have to deal with that. Another vision, more strategic, more reactive, more defensive, is the one expressed by the new national security strategy.
Monsieur Foucher, vous avez 2 minutes.
Published 1 month after the Congress in China. It's about containment of competition. It's very defensive. China is perceived as challenging American power and influence and prosperity because of trade deficit. Other example, Saudi Arabia Vision 2030, modernization by Prince Salman. It's a McKinsey, by the way, document for reference. Russia, no written plan, but big speeches 2 days ago on military strength, restoration of power to break isolation. In the EU, we have only one not so hidden agenda, unification of the continent. The last speech by Juncker was about Western Balkans. This is very important for Greece, of course. It's a long-term process. And the other one, which is the only one after enlargement, is financial perspective, 2027, which will be a strong debate about how to answer the new context. French president is calling for sovereign Europe. This is also long-term perspective. He is referring to 2050. 1 century after Schuman Declaration. This is his objective. So my conclusion in 2 points. First, we cannot escape the context, but we can use it or protect from it to seize opportunities. We have to understand the other view. Washington doesn't understand. Look at China only in terms of rivalry. China is looking at the US in terms of codependency. Last point. The only field where a country should, not shall, should be able to master the long view is itself. So the real question is not planning, is not what is going on around us, but the real issue to have a long-term view is what do we want to achieve ourselves, for ourselves, and what shall we do to reach it? Thank you.